Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. We just wrapped up our interview with the client, Alan Jorgensen. And man, what a great opportunity to kind of hear about someone's experience with the infinite banking concept.
Yeah, when Alan has been doing this for about 16 months, right? And what we just talked about is what his goals were, right? And now he's in a position where he has 4 rental properties that he's AirBNBing, and his wife now has the opportunity to quit her job.
Yeah, what an awesome story.
Which is awesome. And, you know, a couple of takeaways that I had is that he shared a couple times when, let's say, he had diversity or he had it's aversity because somebody already corrected me on
adversity.
You know, I mean, he was saying that his father wasn't that active with him, right? And then when he first started looking for investments, he went down an avenue that he thought was going to work, but it didn't. But both of those times, you know, maybe he didn't have the outcome he wanted, but he learned from it. Right. He learned maybe a different way. He learned maybe that asset class just wasn't for him.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure there were some attributes in going through that is going to help his education with other assets. And as you can tell, what's important to him is not just about getting that passive income, but also teaching his son.
Yeah.
Right. He said he wanted to be the father that he never had. And what that's allowed him is, you know, maybe his childhood, we didn't go into too much detail, but it just wasn't what maybe he would have hoped. But he's taken those learning experiences and wants to make sure that his son cannot say the same. So I thought that was super cool. What were some of your takeaways, Cam?
Yeah, the one big takeaway that I had, I loved hearing it from him, from client experience. Like I said in the interviews, you and I get to hear kind of these stories pretty often, right? When we're meeting with people and we kind of work with them for a while, but rare is it that we get to kind of share that with you guys. And man, the takeaway that I had was I love the idea or how he's taken control of his financial future over the last 14, 16 months, whatever it is. Man, he describes kind of where he was previously. And, you know, he talks about the Dave Ramsey approach where he's just scrimping and scraping. And he had this kind of concern or this anxiety that he had around money, and then he transitions, right, takes control of his money and starts putting it to work for him. And I loved hearing kind of where he was now and having that abundance mentality and really not having a concern for money, right? I mean, he literally said that, you know, he can write a check for $4,000 for an AC unit or something like that with really no concern whatsoever. So I love hearing that story. I really appreciate him coming on and just sharing kind of his journey with you guys.
And what we're going to have more of these of some clients or people that are actually practicing this, where Alan's not selling anything.
Yeah,
you know, all he's trying to do is share his story and hoping that he can inspire people. And I found it inspiring. He just really in the simplest terms, he just took control of his money, right? Instead of giving it to somebody else or even paying down a mortgage, he's taking control and he's buying assets. And now he's achieving those financial goals. And it's not that hard.
Yeah.
You just have to be open to learn and, more importantly, take action.
Awesome. I love it.
Now, enjoy the episode.
Take care. Alan, Anthony and I are really excited to have you joining us today. Man, for our listeners, we know a lot about you, but our listeners don't. If you could just maybe give us a little bit of background about yourself and kind of what you're doing prior to being introduced to infinite banking.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I feel it's an honor. I feel like I'm kind of I'm a big deal, like Ron Burgundy or something now.
You are a big deal.
So what was the question again? What did I do before?
Just a little bit about yourself, man. Yeah. You know, what were you doing beforehand and how you got introduced to infinite banking?
Well, I'm a father of I got a 9.5-year-old and I've got an 18-year-old stepson, and I'm a husband to an awesome wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I work in the transportation industry, the airline industry. Grew up blue collar kid, from the south suburbs of St. Paul, Minnesota. And just grew up with that mentality, the poor dad mentality of work hard, get a good job, save as much as you can, and hope at 65 you can retire and enjoy it. Which, obviously, since I'm here now, I figured out was kind of a crock. So,
yeah, right.
So how'd that change, Alan? I mean, a similar story, right? That's kind of how most of us were taught. How did you notice something was wrong or wanting to do something different?
Well, I wasn't super happy. I was doing the whole Ramsey routine, thinking like this was the way to financial, freedom and wealth. And all it was scrimping and saving and getting mad at my wife for, spending more than she should at the grocery store or something,
Yeah.
And it wasn't until pre-COVID, right during COVID when it started, good friend of mine who actually is my realtor, and I work with him and I respect him a lot. He called me and he's like, "Hey man, you gotta check out this IBC stuff." And I remember the day like super vividly. Like I spent 2 hours. I was in Hartford, Connecticut, on a layover for work in the hotel gym. I was only one in there because I don't think I was supposed to be in there because it was COVID and whatnot. But I was like, well, whatever, no one's here, so I went in there. And he calls me and we talked for like 2 hours about this whole IBC thing and infinite banking. And then he led me on to your friends out there east of the Mississippi, the Wealth Without Wall Street guys podcast. And I just dove in, started with episode 1 and just went hard. Like I couldn't get enough, hearing what was going on. And that was pretty much it. I think David hooked me up with you, Anthony, and we had a meeting, and it's been awesome ever since.
What was it about it? I mean, because we're talking a pretty big mind shift, right? Because I imagine before you were probably maxing out your 401k or right, and then so what clicked, or what did you like, or what persuaded you to kind of make such a drastic shift?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of factors involved. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, so I kind of was trying to get into that mentality, and just the whole idea of thinking that at 65, hopefully I will have enough money to retire and I'm going to be healthy enough to enjoy it. I think a
lot of hope.
I see people in their late 60s and early 70s and they're having a hard time walking. And I'm like, really? Like, this is what my life's about? Like, this is not right. Life's too short. And I thought, well, this is amazing. This vehicle, the infinite banking system, is an amazing vehicle to, because my wife and I were savers and we had tons of money sitting in our savings account earning like 1/100th of a cent, every year. And I thought, well, this is not right. And we wanted to figure out what to do with that money and use it in a better, more
efficient manner.
More efficient manner. And I thought, well, this is great. You get a good return. Not that it's always about the return. And then, we got the death benefit. And then when we need to use it, if we want to buy an asset or something, it's there. So I thought, what more could you ask for? And it's growing on top of that, compounding. So that was kind of it. And then, middle of COVID, we were offered these leave of absences from work. They were basically paid leave of absences. And I took one, and it was kind of like, listening to you guys in your podcast, I was like, okay, I got to find my investor DNA because I need my and. I got the IBC going with Anthony and Cameron, you guys. This is great, but I got to find my and. And I went down this path of note buying, non-performing notes. I thought this will be good. Like the return, like it seems pretty good. You can buy homes for like 25 cents on the dollar. This is gonna be awesome. Well, I don't know. You guys obviously know about the moratorium with, rental properties and mortgages and whatnot. Well, banks weren't selling notes either at the time because they didn't have to, and I don't think they're really allowed to. So it wasn't. I enjoyed learning about it, but it wasn't my investor DNA. And cold calling banks. I'm not a salesman. Yeah, it's not my
yeah. Didn't get you excited, did it?
No, and we have this cabin in Oklahoma that my wife and I bought we bought in 2019, and it's a great family escape. Reminds me of northern Minnesota, big pine trees. It's a really pretty area. And we were going there often, probably like every other weekend. We'd take my son up there and hang out. It's great family time. But we moved, thanks to Dave Rosenstein again. We bought a new house in May of 2020. Well, we were fortunate enough to find an older home with a swimming pool. And so our weekends now in Texas were hanging out at that swimming pool, because that's what you do in Texas. And it was like, why do I want to leave here when I can just hang out and enjoy the weekend with my family, and instead of driving 3 hours to Oklahoma? And my wife's like, well, we should just rent this place out. And I'm like, oh, brilliant. You know,
wife's always have the best ideas.
And she totally does. And so we kind of went down this road of, let's get this thing ready to put it on Airbnb and use it as a short-term rental. And so then there you go. There's my and it was kind of exciting. We already bought the property. We already own the property. We didn't realize that stuff in Oklahoma, where it was at, was blowing up exponentially. So we're very fortunate with that. And it's been that's kind of the path we've been going down ever since.
Awesome. I want to hear more about that, but I want to back up a little bit if we can.
Sure.
You'd spent kind of 2 hours in the gym talking to your buddy about infinite banking, right? You had to take it to your wife at some point.
Oh yeah.
And introduce her to that idea. How was that received? How did that conversation go? And was it a brief one? Was it a long conversation?
I think there was a lot of confusion. I was trying to describe. I had Nash's book out. I was trying to show her, like, hey, this is how we, create our own bank and this and that and all the other. And I'm not very good at explaining this stuff at all. And I think she had this glazed look on her face, like, sure, honey. I'm kind of the numbers guy in the family anyways. So, I don't know when the switch went on in her mind, or when she decided this was a good idea, but I think she just kind of said, well, I trust you to do the right thing for us. And that was it. It wasn't like a big aha moment for her. I wouldn't say.
Yeah. So you had one other friend that was kind of doing IBC. I think back to kind of when I came across the infinite banking concept and the strategy. I asked a whole bunch of people that I knew, and the feedback that I got was not supportive by any means, right? It was actually like, you're insane. What do you think you're doing? Right? This is the dumbest thing ever. Right? Did you get any of that?
Oh yeah. I texted a good friend of mine that I consider to be financially intelligent, and he was like, he's like, let me look it up. And I'm sure he went on like Ramsey's YouTube channel or something and Googled it or something and watched some YouTube video that was just the wrong deal. And so that, I kind of was like, oh, well, whatever. And then I actually talked to some other guys that were connected with Dave Rosenstein that were doing the IBC thing as well. And, they kind of, I didn't really need convincing, but it was nice to see others that were in my situation that were doing the same thing. And, other than that, I really haven't had much negative feedback. So when I'm at work, we've had a lot of time when I'm working with another pilot and we're flying over wherever, and you got hours to just talk. It comes up pretty often.
Yeah.
And half of them kind of look at you like you're crazy. And then when you talk to them about how the whole marathon story, you're going to be last for a while, but then you're going to pass everybody and win the race. And they're kind of like, sure, man. And so, a few guys, you plant the seed and they actually, want to know more about it and want to know what you're doing. So I'm sorry, I got a dog barking here.
It's okay. I have Cameron right next to me.
Yeah.
So Alan, if I remember when we had first met, we were talking about some of your goals, because that's typically that's where we start. Because infinite banking isn't about the product. It's really, can we help using this product help you achieve your goals faster and with more certainty? And some of your goals that I remember was to, because at that point you hadn't rented out your place in Oklahoma, but your plan was to rent it out and then to potentially look at getting another one. So again, that was a means, the end of and the goal was your wife being able to quit her job.
Correct.
If you wanted to. So how has that progressed since the first time we met?
So we're going on 14 months basically since you and I spoke. June. It's Is that right? 16 months. I'm sorry, 16 months, almost a year and a half since you and I spoke. So we got the first property up and running basically in February of this year, 21. Mm-hmm. And we closed on another property in Oklahoma in May, and we've got that one up and running, short-term rental, AirBNB. We got that going like the second week of June.
Oh, perfect.
And we've got our third property right now. We just closed on last month, and now we're getting that ready to go. And that's in northern Georgia. We're trying that territory out a little, since the Oklahoma Broken Bow area is kind of blown up. Price per square foot wise, it's getting like insane. So we're on 3, and we've got our 4th one under contract that we're supposed to close on in like a week and a half in northern Georgia. So we're kind of, I told Melissa yesterday, actually, I said, whenever you're ready to say bye, just say when.
How was that, man? That had to be a pretty cool conversation to have.
Yeah, I backtrack and talk about numbers, but we flew from Pittsburgh to Los Angeles, and I just run numbers, and if I'm bored, that's what I do. And I was just like, when
you're flying a plane, you're just sitting there running numbers, right?
Well, I'm reading, airplane books and stuff too.
Okay.
Real important things.
Yeah.
But in my head, mentally, it's like Goodwill Hunting or something. So
he's even more humble than you.
Yeah.
So I just felt like we landed in LA, and she called me. We spoke on the phone, and she told me about issues and whatnot going on there that just wasn't good. And I'm like, Melissa, when you're ready, we're ready. Like she brings so much to the table. Like she is where I'm weak, she is strong. And I think, my strengths kind of make up for her weaknesses maybe too. I don't know. Hopefully that's the case. But I'm just like, you do so much better when you're focused on what we're trying to grow than, where you're at with your W-2 job. And so it was just like a light bulb going on, saying, hey, like it's time, because she provides so much more for our business than I could ever do myself. So it's great. I'm excited for the day it happens. So
yeah. So let's drive a little personal, Alan. Like, how does that feel that now, when you and your wife together, you're already achieving some of the goals, and being able to tell her, hey, you know what, if you want, you're working because you want to, not because you have to. How did that feel as a husband?
Feels pretty awesome. Like, I feel like it's too good to be true. Honestly, like I'm in some weird dream that I'm going to wake up and, it's all fake or something. Or maybe like Kiyosaki saying we're going to have a great recession. It's going to just come crumbling down on us. But I hope that's not the case.
Okay, so Al, let's talk a little bit of how you did it. All right, because so you already had one house.
Yeah.
Okay, and then how did you get the capital to buy for the other three?
So it's funny because I spoke to you right as we were closing on our new home, and it's a new home to us. It's an old home, but when we were closing on it, I was we sold our other home, and we had a pretty good amount of equity in that house, and I was just going to roll all that equity into our new home.
Ooh.
And fortunately, I spoke to you in time to backpedal on that deal. And the bank said to me, well, do you want to do 10% down instead? And I'm like, yeah. And took the rest of the equity from that sale of our other home and rolled it into the policy. And then we also kind of took advantage of some of the CARES 401k withdrawals.
Mm-hmm.
And we had savings, so that we were fortunate enough to have a good amount of cash to really jumpstart us and jumpstart our policies, and have a lot of cash value to go to work for us.
I think that's great. We went from basically zero rentals, right? It was a second home, to getting to 4 rentals and your wife being able to quit. So Alan, here's what I suggest you do.
Yes.
That guy that you were texting back and forth, who said, and then again, we're going to tie this back into the Goodwill Hunting.
Yeah.
All right.
You like apples?
You like apples?
You like them apples?
Yeah. Hey, my wife's quitting her job because of what we're doing. How do you like those apples?
Well, yeah, I like that idea, but I also believe in some karma. I'm trying not to. I don't want to count my blessings before they, get taken away. But that's funny though. Definitely.
That is good. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about the cabins and stuff. Maybe cash flow, price points, something like that.
So like I'm a big fan of the cash on cash return. I kind of run numbers based on, can we get the money we put down within 2 years. So
that's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah. So roughly the one we have, the first one we had, which has doubled in price, was just appraised for twice what we paid for it, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then so that cash on cash return, it's not even real. It's like 120%. So I don't even. That's super rare. But I shoot for like anywhere. Ideally, it would be 20%. Anything above 20% is great. The properties that we have running right now, and the one we're going to get up and going, should be where you're looking at close to 50% for a cash on cash return. And they net from anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 a month. Just depends on the month. I mean, it's seasonal. June and summer months are crazy, and then you have slow months too. Like September is a slow month, so you might only make like $2,000 net on a slow month. So, but it all evens out, So the ultimate goal is to achieve. I have this number of 20,000. Like 20,000 passive income a month is going to be the ultimate goal, and I can go down to work really, really part time and enjoy life. But I think I don't know if I'll stop there based on what reading with Kiyosaki's books. It's like, why would I stop? But
yeah, right.
Sorry, I interrupted you, Anthony.
No. This is all about you, Alan. But I was curious how because I know a lot of Airbnb is really hot now. A lot of people are getting into it, and your properties are all in the next state over. So how has that challenge been to be managing that when you don't have foots on the ground?
Yeah, it's a challenge. You have to. The key, most Airbnb owners say, is to have a really, really good cleaner and maintenance person. And we've got I think it's just building your team. And I think we've got that. It doesn't go without headaches. I mean, there'll be a weekend and you'll get a text message from a guest because this is broken or this wasn't there or this and that. It kind of, at first you get all riled up because it's about reviews. If you get bad reviews, it's not good for you. But I've gotten to the point, and Melissa has too, where it's kind of like, well, you can't control it. So what are you going to do? You apologize, you try to make it right. And sometimes people are happy and sometimes they're not. It is part of the game. So, but that's the key, especially long distance, having a good boots on the ground, good cleaner, good maintenance person. So that helps.
Man, looking back 14, 15 months ago, did you ever imagine you'd kind of get to this spot this quickly?
No way. I was giving myself to like 55.
Now, Alan, he's referring to your financial freedom number not being on an episode of the Infinite Wealth podcast.
Like I was saying, it's like I feel like I'm kind of a big deal. I had no idea. I didn't think it would be this quick, honestly. But I couldn't predict this. So.
And I would say anybody listening, normally it's not this quick. Right. I don't want people to get the impression, okay, look, in 14 months, your wife can quit the job. It takes time, right? And it also takes capital, right? Sometimes Alan was fortunate where he was a saver and had some capital. But even if you don't have capital, there's ways that you can do it. Or if you have a little bit of capital, the key thing is that you get educated and then you take action. Maybe it doesn't take you 16 months, but man, what if it took you 36 months or 48 months, right? Again, it's a lot quicker and more fun than waiting until you're 65 to start enjoying that.
Exactly.
Now, Alan, I'm imagining that there's some listeners, they've been listening to podcasts and maybe they've read Nelson's book and they're kind of on the fence. This just kind of where we all were, right? Where we heard about this, but kind of there's that fear of the unknown of taking the next step. Alan, what would you say to somebody who's kind of on the fence about infinite banking?
I like the whole analogy about when's the best time to plant a tree, 20 years ago, right? And then today, you got to do it. Like, I mean, if you want control of your financial destiny, or do you want to leave it up to the government and taxes and a hope and a prayer? I guess it's kind of up to you. For us, for Melissa and I, we wanted control. And like when I was talking about my whole Ramsey routine, like there's a lot of days I was like had anxiety about money for some reason. I don't care about money right now. I really don't. Like I feel like super blessed and I don't even think and worry about money. We got an AC unit going out in one of our cabins and I think it's gonna cost like $4,000 to replace. And I go, well, let's pull it out of the policy. What's the big deal? To me, I feel completely blessed. So,
no, that's cool.
I don't know.
Man,
I think you're a fool if you think that you can just give it to the government and let them control your destiny. So,
right now, Alan, also, I think, or I hope a lot of people, when COVID started, maybe they were furloughed. I mean, just for example, like you were as well, and some jobs are changing and some people are getting fired because they're not vaccinated. Right. Sure. And so there's this, talk about this pending recession.
Yeah.
How does it, normally when we got all of our money, all of our assets in the stock market in our house, right? And those can go down, but you have some assets differently and you're not solely dependent on your W-2. You have other income here. So Has this affected maybe your comfort and stress level when you read the news or hear a story about the pending recession?
A little bit. I guess there was a little bit of stress when I think that maybe we bought a couple of these cabins at a price too high, but it's all about the numbers. If the numbers work, they work. So what are you going to do? So other than that, not really. I kind of took you guys' advice a couple weeks ago when you're talking about the whole Kiyosaki and Buffett saying there's going to be one in October recession, and try to figure out how much cash can I get scrounged up and store away and get ready for when there is opportunity to buy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was a roundabout way of answering the question. But yeah, not really stressed about it.
Alan, kind of what I've seen is, what I've seen is people when they stress, right, and they're that kind of Dave Ramsey mindset that you talked about, as they're so focused on cash, it's a concern, it's a burden for them.
Scarcity,
absolutely. But what they transition over to that kind of abundance mindset, and kind of where you at is what comes next is, hey man, I got to pass this on, right? How do I teach this way of thinking to my kids? And I think I heard you say you had an 18-year-old and a 9-year-old. Have you got into that yet?
Oh yeah. So we have policies for both kids. My 9-year-old. So I grew up kind of without a great father figure in my life. So one of my goals in life is to kind of be the dad I never had. And
I can relate.
So I keep stuff real with my son Jonah. He gets lessons from me daily about just Melissa looks at me and it's like, what are you telling him? Just like crazy. But I'm like, we keep it real here. I want to be honest with him and let him know like this is how life works. And so yeah, we've kind of gone down that road of teaching him about finances, and he loves we talk about assets and liabilities, and he knows Daddy wants to get an Audi someday, and I ask him, I said, is that an asset or is that a liability? Well, that's a liability, Daddy. What are you going to do with that? Or we were talking about our house. I said, is our house an asset or a liability? He's like, well, it's a liability. It doesn't make us any money. I said, yep, that's right. So I enjoy kind of giving. I'm hoping to guide him down a different financial path that I went down. Where he has maybe he'll have an entrepreneur mindset, and I don't have this like stress about he needs to go to college, and he does have college money saved up. He could go wherever he wanted to go, but if he looks at me and says, I want to grow like a real estate portfolio, or I want to do something else, or start my own business, that would be awesome. The other day we were so back to scrounging up as much money as we can. We just got a Heloc on the one cabin that doubled in price. And Melissa came home from work and she was telling me how she was trying to explain to her coworkers what a Heloc was. And I said, well, I just taught Jonah. And so Jonah came over and told Melissa what a Heloc was in his own words.
No way.
It was pretty funny. So
wait, so your 9-year-old understands what a Heloc is. Now, Cameron, a Heloc is a home equity line of credit.
Because you have Jonah give me a call later, Alan.
Jonah. So if you have like a Paul Mitchell product that's worth like $50, but you can sell it for like $300, and you could take some of that extra, borrow against it. No.
Got it. I'm with you, man. I'm following you.
Still have the gel, right?
Yeah. Wow. Good analogy. Thank you.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of teaching him a different road. I don't want to teach him you have to go to college. You got to save. You got to put it in your 401k and hope to retire at 65. There's other options. And the great part is he doesn't have to be me, a middle-aged man going, man, I wish I would have planted that tree 20 years ago, because his is already planted. So that's, for me to think about that's pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
That is.
I was showing him the whole the growth of our policy. Like year 3 to 4, it's like 4%, and then that year 10, it's like 48 and then it grows after that. And I was like, so that's like me giving you $1, or you give me $1, I give you $1.50 back. And he's like, what if I give you 1,000? And I said, well, then you get 1,500. He's like, well, I want to do that.
He's a smart kid. Yeah. I like the way he thinks. Let's add a couple zeros on there.
That's he's getting it.
Yeah.
He's getting it.
So,
man, Alan, I want to thank you for coming on. Is a lot of the stuff that you just conveyed to our listeners is the stuff that Anthony and I get to hear kind of often in meetings, but we don't get to kind of relay that. So, man, I appreciate you coming on and just sharing your experience with everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me, for sure.
And somehow I wanted to work in. I see you wearing a Cobra Kai shirt, and I know.
Yep.
Right. I think we're all excited for the season coming up. What I tell people, if you're fans of the Karate Kid growing up and you don't mind bad acting and a couple plot holes, Cobra Kai is
can't go wrong.
Is a lot of fun. Well, awesome, Alan. Thanks. We do appreciate that you being personal and sharing your story, and we're glad that we're able to help you achieve your goals, and we're hoping maybe that you may have inspired some people to help achieve theirs.
Hopefully, yeah. I appreciate it. I appreciate what you guys do.
Absolutely, man.
Awesome.
Congratulations on not only hitting your goals, but surpassing them. I look forward to what you do in the next 14 months.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, awesome, Alan. Now go make it a fantastic day.
Take care.
Stay classy.